Hello everyone, welcome to the technical webinar on the EI PSM framework. My name is Amy Jane Lewis and I'm a technical officer at the Energy Institute for the Energy Transition. I'm very pleased to be here today to help moderate this session. My co-hosts today include Lee Allford from the EI, as well as consultants Stephen and Ian. Just before we commence, I want to remind you of webinar housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, as you hopefully just heard, and it will appear on YouTube after the event. All participants are muted apart from the speakers. However, we do want this to be an interactive session, so please feel free to post any questions you have in the Q&A function. Please don't post them in the chat as it can get a bit confusing, and all questions will be answered at the end of the session by speakers. There have been previous technical webinars in this series, including on topics such as hydrogen, tripod light, methane, and if any of these are of interest, please feel free to visit the EI YouTube page. Another exciting event coming up is the International Energy Week, taking place at the end of February of 2024, and all the links will be sent in a post-event email. Just before I hand over to my colleague Lee, I'm going to really quickly introduce you to the Energy Institute for those of you who haven't worked with us before or been involved in the work we produce. So, the Energy Institute is a chartered professional membership body for people working within the world of energy, and our mission is to create a better energy future for our members and society by accelerating a just global energy transition to net zero. We meet this mission through three main focuses. The first is around attracting, developing, and equipping a diverse workforce for the future. The second is around informing decision-making on energy-related issues by convening expertise and advice. And the third is enabling energy to be more sustainable, lower carbon, safer, and more efficient. The EI's Technical and Innovation Programme helps to achieve these focuses through publishing good practice guidance, standards, and other resources, including this webinar series, across a range of topics to help steward our rapidly changing sector towards a safer and lower carbon future. If you want to learn more about the Energy Institute and the work we do, please visit the website www.energyinst.org. And without any further ado, I want to introduce my colleague Lee, who will formally begin this webinar.
Thank you very much, Amy. Can I just do a voice check? Can my co-presenters put their hand up if they can hear me fine? Excellent. Well,
yeah, perfectly.
Thank you very much. Well, I'd like to say hello and a very warm welcome to everyone who has joined this Zoom webinar on the Energy Institute Process Safety Management Framework and avoiding the so far so good pitfall. People online might be asking, well, what is this so far so good pitfall mentioned in the webinar title? I'd like to explain this by just this very short shaggy dog story. And the story goes that one sunny spring afternoon, a hopeless optimist absent-mindedly stepped off the top of a multi-story apartment block. As they were falling past each floor, they were heard to exclaim, "So far so good, so far so good, so far so good." Well, as far as process safety, it's tempting for a major hazards organization to believe that because it's not suffered a major incident in its recent past, that it's unlikely to suffer one in future, and everything is so far so good. But an absence of low frequency but high impact incidents offers little way in the way of guidance to future process safety performance. Indeed, unless an organization understands what lies behind its current process safety performance, the greater the odds that, just like our optimist, that it will arrive at an undesirable and abrupt conclusion. And understanding what lies behind process safety performance is the subject of today's webinar, the EI Process Safety Framework. So, yeah, I'm Lee Allford. I'm the technical advisor for the Energy Institute's Process Safety and Decommissioning Programme. And today I shall be acting as your chair, telling some very silly stories, just as I've done there, putting some of your questions to the co-presenters, doing some scene setting before passing on to Ian and Stephen. the last 6 years, I've been supporting the Energy Institute's Process Safety Committee, which has overseen the development of the framework ever since it was first published back in 2010. The framework was further revised and published in 2022, and this latest version offers more content on how to make the case for adoption of the framework and provide some practical advice on where to start in its implementation. In addition, the revision features a real-life case study on how a joint venture partnership used the framework as the basis for an assessment of process safety performance. What hasn't dramatically changed is the core of the framework. There are still 4 focus areas of the framework, namely process safety leadership, risk identification and assessment, risk management, and review and improvement. And there are still the 20 elements which span those 4 focus areas, and only modest changes to the 200 plus expectations ranging across those 20 elements. The fact that the revision made only modest changes to the core of the framework, I believe, demonstrates the level of thought and input that was invested in the original version. Okay, finally, I would urge you all online to avail yourself of the latest version of the framework, which is freely available from EI Publishing website on the site, as is the guidelines which support each of the elements and provide more detail on how to implement each of the 20 elements, including suggestions for performance indicators. With that, I would now like to hand over to Ian Travers. Ian.
Hi, good day, everyone. Thank you for joining me. So Stephen and I are going to jointly work you through this this webinar. I'm going to do the kind of introductory slides, and then Stephen is going to take you through the details of the auditing tool. So I'm going to introduce myself. I've been in health and safety 47 years, I think now. Worked 30 odd years with the UK Health and Safety Executive as a major hazards inspector. Spent most of my career in major hazards, starting as an inspector on the ground and working my way up to the lofty heights of the management team. So I was looking after regulatory programs, and I'm quite passionate about process safety because I've been on the wrong end of too many process safety incidents, and had to investigate many loss of containment events, and want to do all I can to prevent anyone else facing that awful situation. So I'm really keen that people learn about process safety, and I'm keen that people learn before they have an incident rather than the painful process of learning after an incident. That's obviously Trevor Kletz's quote. And I've never investigated a major incident where the cause was either novel or unusual, or the circumstances that led to it hadn't happened previously within that organization or that company. So the evidence is there that your systems, whether your systems are working or not, it's up to companies to go out and look at that evidence and come to conclusions about whether they've got an effective process safety management system in place. And thankfully, the Energy Institute gives structure to that process of what good looks like and what should be in place. So that's, I'm going to hand over to Stephen to introduce himself, and then I'll pick back up in the main presentation.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Amy. Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen Baker. I'm the same as Ian. I'm passionate about process safety and preventing the incidents we're still having, unfortunately. And I was involved in the revision of the framework and developing the audit tools and the KPI indicators. And as Ian said, we're trying to share best practice so companies can implement a systematic framework to prevent these incidents so they can operate safely, efficiently, compliantly, but also make their fiscal targets, and we avoid these catastrophic events that still happen in the process safety sector. So that's me. Welcome to everyone, and pass you back to Ian. Okay, Ian.
Thanks. Stephen, can you switch to presentation mode in the slide so we see the slide, if you don't mind? Great, thank you. You're going to change them, Stephen, then
Yeah.
hopefully. So, look, so why bother? Why bother auditing and checking on your safety systems? Well, no matter how good the initial design, no matter how much effort and time and devotion was put in by the people who built and implemented your process safety control systems, everything deteriorates over time. So everything fails. If you're fortunate, the failure rates or the deterioration of your control systems, and I'm just talking about hardware, I'm talking about process controls and people here, deteriorate slowly and predictably. Some, unfortunately, don't do that. Some deteriorate erratically with no early warning. And some you might have visibility of, but others might be completely out of sight. And so auditing and measuring and monitoring performance of your process safety management system takes a lot of effort. You need to be quite focused in what you're looking for, what evidence you're looking for, what signs and symptoms of your control systems working. You should always be looking at the outcome. So is this system in place? Is it delivering what we expect in terms of control? As I said in my introduction, spotting an incident is much better before an incident is much better than fixing it after it's failed. So leading indicators and the health of your PSM has become the kind of desired focus in performance measurement. Next slide, please, Steve. So why audit? Well, there's lots of ways of measuring performance. You can walk around the workplace, do workplace tours. With process safety, there's not always a lot to see. So looking at equipment doesn't tell you whether it's been operated safely. You have to delve deeper into that. So you really need some evidence from proactive measures rather than reactive measures, incident investigation, to see that your systems have been designed, constructed, operated, and maintained as intended. And obviously, this is done with an outcome to ensure the safety and health of employees, communities, and customers, and protecting the environment and protecting your assets, the thing that makes you money. I'm always quite surprised that in organizations that made a hazard sector, they don't kind of realize that this thing you're trying to operate, if it goes wrong, is going to put you out of business. And there's plenty of evidence under that. And the other issue is process safety is production safety and efficiency and effectiveness. If you're not getting unplanned outages, you're not getting loss of containment events, you're not getting failures, then you're going to continue in production and you're going to make more money and stay in business. Next slide, please, Stephen. So you should never undertake an audit without having a clear idea of what it's delivering. So these are outcome-based thinking. So an audit should primarily determine whether the system has been implemented and, importantly, it's functioning. So that doesn't mean, as I've seen an awful lot in my time, that you've got great paperwork, you've got a safety report or safety reports or something like that, that it's actually got to operate on the ground. It's got to deliver control of risk at the point of where the hazards are, where you've got hazardous substances, systems under pressure, etc. So that's the primary aim. You have a process safety management system to deliver control over risk, and you're auditing to see that that control is actually in place. And you don't get a day off controlling hazards and risks in process safety. As I keep saying to audiences that listen to me, gasoline is always flammable. It doesn't have a day when it's not flammable or half an hour. So the moment you get a loss of containment with a flammable liquid like gasoline or a toxic gas like chlorine, you're going to face quite a lot of impact. So we can't have a day off managing these risks or a half an hour off. If the hazards are present, you've got to manage the risk. And spotting these flaws or potential problems in your risk management system proactively and actively is really essential. You've got to be on it all the time. So next slide, please, Stephen. people often ask me, how often should we audit? I have a pretty strong view on this. And the first thing is, you shouldn't audit on top of audits. So if the previous audit and there's still lots of outstanding actions, the organization, your company is much better investing the time in sorting out those actions and piling on another set of improvements with another audit. So please be careful in the frequency. But you might have a company standard on the design and the frequency of the audit program, but be flexible. And you really need to set out the objectives of that audit program, and that will adjust the frequency. So, you know, too far apart and you're not going to spot things too close together, you're never going to catch up with yourself, and you're always going to be finding new activities and struggling to meet improvement plans. Audits should always be prepared and announced, never a surprise. They should be programmed in advance with adequate time for the facility to prepare. You shouldn't just turn up on the day and expect to deliver a decent audit. It takes an awful lot of planning and a lot of consideration. So when you think about frequency, you may be facing government regulations that specify an audit schedule. You might be based on your kind of company kind of voluntary consensus. It might be part of your PSM, etc., etc. But generally speaking, the good advice is that process safety audits of high hazard facilities should occur at least every three years. Don't leave it longer than 3 years. Audit more frequently if you've got the need, but please don't leave it more than 3 years. Next slide, please, Stephen. So auditing is about providing information intelligence on the functioning of the PSM, but you always should structure an audit in a systematic way using a framework like the Energy Institute, using tools like we're going to share with you a bit later on. And you want that systematic and consistent approach. You don't want a great variation on standards. You don't want a great variation on what kind of evidence people are looking for. And the Energy Institute framework and the minimum expectations or the essential requirements gives you that focus. You're checking to see those requirements are in place and delivering the desired outcome. So using the Energy Institute 20-element framework, as I said, about 3 years, you should get through all of them. You could do it in a single program, or you could do them in a kind of a stepwise nature. And audits are not about fault finding. It's about strengths and weaknesses, because you want to build on the strengths, even if you spot some weaknesses. So you really want to make sure that where you're picking up good practice, that is shared around the organization and people understand how that represents good practice. So auditing isn't about finding fault, it's about finding a balance of strengths and weaknesses in process safety management. But when you come up with a list of recommendations, they should always be prioritized and presented in a non-technical language that can go all the way up the organization, particularly if money is involved and you need financial directors and executives involved to agree CapEx or OpEx expenditure, then don't use technical language, okay? And every finding, you should be able to back it up with evidence. And evidence is a fact that you can prove. So you can go and get a document, you can get something that somebody said, you can take some photographs. Evidence is what you should base your findings on, not assumptions. Next slide, please, Stephen. So planning an audit takes time. So you need to look at, depending on which element you're checking, you might be checking all 20, but say you were checking number 3, element 3, employee selection, then you've got to prepare an audit agenda. What do you need to check? So the essential requirements in the EI framework and the structure in the audit tool we're going to share with you has that structure built into it. But if you're not using those, you need to build that structure. So what evidence will you be looking for against this element 3? What documents do you want to see and read? Who do you want to speak to, and what do you want to see? And all of that needs to be planned in advance. You can't make it up on the day of the audit. And it's good practice to develop a set of questions to guide you in acquiring this information. So build up an audit agenda for each element, and then go out and seek that evidence from documents you read, people you can speak to, and things you can see. Next slide, please, Stephen. So why use an audit tool such as the tool Stephen's going to demonstrate shortly? Well, as I said, it gives you that systematic approach. It gives you that structure, and it ensures consistency. So that if you've got a number of auditors, or if you're auditing, as an individual over time, you make sure that you come back and you refresh yourself on what are the essential requirements of that element and of that essential requirement. It's easy to use. It takes all of the kind of structure thinking for you. As I said, it provides a simple, consistent approach, and it gives you a good understanding of strengths and weaknesses by a scorecard, and you can track your performance over time, and you can compare performance between different facilities in a single organization. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so the framework is built, as Lee said, on the 4 focus areas in the framework, and each focus area has a number of elements, and in each element it has a set of expectations and some guidance what good practice looks like against those. And so the audit structure has to follow that hierarchy. So choose your focus area, choose your element. Sorry, Stephen, it's fine to change it. Choose your expectation, and review the delivery of the outcome of each of those elements in those areas. So you need to make sure you cover quite comprehensively the 20 elements and the 4 key frameworks. Okay, so you need to be able to review your risk management. You need to have identified and assessed the risks, and you need good leadership within your organization to deliver effective process safety management. Next slide, please, Stephen. So this just gives you a bit of detail in the framework and the structure in these elements. So each of the 20, so the 4 areas break down into 20 elements. And people ask me, do I have to start at number 1 and end up at number 20? And the answer is no. You need to structure it according to the organization and how the organization works and the facility you're renewing. So it's perfectly okay to jump between the 20 elements, and it's perfectly okay to sample over a period of time different elements so that you cover the whole 20, as I said, usually over a 3-year cycle. Thank you, Stephen. So this is the soothsaying. Really, I just spent a couple of weeks in Poland dealing with the major incidents at a couple of refineries there. And it's the same old incidents we keep having, unfortunately. And I wish we could get in the boardroom with senior executives before they face failure, and really to kind of pin down with them how to ensure safe operations, what to look for, how to understand the data they're getting from their performance measuring system, how to understand their incident investigation. So the answer is always to follow this structured process, use the EI framework. And I mean, it's not no guarantee that you're not going to have an incident, but it gives you a very high level of assurance that you're going to be managing the risk and spotting failures and faults before they result in a major loss of containment or incident. Thank you, Stephen. So we developed this in HSE. In fact, yours truly wrote these questions for us to present after the Buncefield court hearing, just to simplify process safety. So 3 questions. Do we know how and what can go wrong? Do we know what systems we've got in place to prevent them going wrong? And how do we know those systems are working effectively? And these questions must be cycled through constantly within a major hazard industry with a focus on which process you're looking at. And these statements should be well known and well understood, and everyone should be on the same page. So people operating a major hazard facility can't have a different view about which major hazard scenarios can occur, can't have a different view about their PSM and which elements should be in place, and can't have a different take on evidence that they may be getting that the systems are working effectively. Everyone should follow a same structure, and that's what this framework provides. Thank you, Stephen. So, yeah, some traits of auditing that we've discovered, or certainly are fairly obvious, that chasing certification and validation against an ISO standard or a British standard is the main reason we come across people are auditing. And that gives you a focus that isn't really about controlling risk. It's about maintaining the status. So if you scored a 5 last time, you don't want to go down to a 4-star or whatever. And that really is bad practice. If you've got, you're discovering things within audit that need to be fixed and improved, then you should do that, okay? So audit should always ensure that the system is delivering the outcome. And the research that HSE did was published a few years ago now, that auditing monitoring really didn't test the quality of the control systems. They were paper-based audits looking at documents and procedures rather than what's happening on the site. Okay, so this clear idea of what the major hazard scenarios should be in place, what's safety critical both in terms of equipment and safety critical tasks, and how that they give rise to control of risk, and the underlying culture, leadership and culture that pervades the organization, that promotes the right actions and the right responses to process incidents and failures. Thank you, Stephen. So really, the claim and the call is to up our game when it comes to process safety auditing, to make sure it delivers some benefits, confirms that the process safety management system is in place and delivering the outcomes. It doesn't just focus on paperwork, and it doesn't just focus on hardware. It focuses on the interface between people and hazards. And please, good practice in auditing takes time. It will to develop, but you will be surprised how effective this is if you follow this kind of protocol that we're outlining today. Thank you, Stephen. So, HSE, this is urged high hazard businesses make time and resources for process safety. This isn't something that's done bottom up. It has to be done top down. So it has to be owned and delivered and promoted from the board level onwards. We've learned that through many, many incidents such as BP, Texas City, Deepwater Horizon, and Buncefield. And I'm sure, you know, there's more and more. So process safety factors that are required for audits include the reason or the theoretical basis of the audit, why is it being done, a clear outcome statement, using a coherent and comprehensive framework, clear standards of compliance. So what does good look like in permit to work? What does good look like in competence management? What does good look like in management to change? As I said before, you're using 3 sources of information: documents, what people can tell you, and what you can see, and you want triangulation of that evidence. So if it's written somewhere, it should be known by people who are doing that job or that task, rather than it being a surprise. Okay, be clear on, when you're developing your audit agenda, who you want to speak to and what you want to know from them. Don't just make it up on the day. And you might want to give weighting to different parts of the audit. I certainly look for priorities in hazard identification, risk assessment, and then delivery of the primary elements about asset management, operating parameters, and system design standards. So this framework gets you into those level of details in a structured way. Thank you, Stephen.
Hello, thanks very much, Ian.
I'm going to hand over to Stephen now, in case you haven't guessed. But please, please come back later on if you've got any questions or you want to raise any issues.
Okay, thanks very much, Ian. Like I say, gentlemen and ladies, we're just trying to share good practice. Basically, EI framework, it is what it is. It does what it's on the tin. It's very comprehensive. And at the very least, the element around emergency preparedness and response shares when you have got things wrong, you can mitigate. So we believe the solution is, do you understand what can go wrong? And then we apply the framework, which is a systematic approach. As Ian said, there's 4 focus areas, 20 elements, 200 expectations. It's proven by the longevity. As Lee said, it was published in 2010. There are numerous companies across the globe. I've been a practitioner, and it is a systematic approach. You're not reinventing the wheel. You can align it with your existing management systems, whether that be 45,001 or 14,000. So you can systemize your framework to align to a process that's basically seen as de facto best practice. Do we know what systems can go wrong and things in place to prevent them going wrong? There is a fully comprehensive list of indicators aligned to the framework. We've developed a software application to cover for each expectation and the KPI associated with it. And in particular, the focus of this presentation is a formal EI process safety management audit tool that is fully aligned to the framework. So that's what we're trying to do. So basically, we're trying to find out, look at where we are, and then systematically look for any gaps, and then put measures in place to prevent these incidents happening. So the framework is there. Leah said you're more than welcome if you're a member of the EI, or you can get access to this framework. It's very comprehensive. It was developed by the industry, for the industry. It's gone from peer review, and it's been implemented across the globe, very successfully. So I just covered again the structure of the framework. It's got the 4 key process focus areas. It's got 20 elements and over 200 expectations, and a very comprehensive set of guidance documents. This is an indication of the dashboard we've developed for process safety indicators. It covers the 200 expectations. It can be linked to automatic AI generated data, or it can be just basically systematic data entry, depending on the complexity and scale of the organization. It's aggregated as well, so it can look at multiple sites. It can actually give you a representation across the same functions. It can be used for benchmarking all the organizational sites if required. So we developed the audit tool now. This is basically a fully comprehensive online enabled audit tool that covers every element, expectation of the framework. It's intuitive, it's simple, it's standardized. You can actually use it for multiple sites or individual sites. And it basically gives you the sort of approach where you can actually do these things on site in a real-time approach, where, as Ian said, we can avoid the issue of initiative or overload or audit fatigue, because we can use this as a real-time sample of where we are, look at any gaps, record the gaps, and actually address the gap before they become incidents. And as I say, again, I highlight opportunities for emergency preparedness and response. Just got a little GIF. You can actually log onto the system. It opens up. Very simple. You edit the site information, the name, the auditor, the date of the audit. Then you save the application, and then you can actually go through each of the focus areas, each element, and you've got a score of 1 to 5, and you can see whether it's compliant or if it's not compliant, and you can recommend where it is. You can upload the factual data, as Ian said, is very important, and then you can present the report then with all the evidence compiling for site, and that can be escalated up to the senior management if required. And then at the very end, you've got opportunities for completing a load of charts and actually report. There's a fully comprehensive report which will show you things to do. You can know findings of the audit real time. We can update the notes, and then we can download a simple opportunity of the report. And there's a fully indicated report then for the 200 plus elements of where you are for compliance that can be used for any of the team to identify best practice. There's a graphical representation of each of the focus areas, and it covers the whole area of the audit tool. That's the header page. It's very user-friendly and, as I say, intuitive, and you can actually run through it very systematically and standardize across your organization. So that's a quick run through. Any questions, lads, or any of the others want to jump in?
Okay, thanks for that, Stephen and Ian. That's a nice introduction to the use of the framework as far as process safety auditing. Whilst we're waiting for any questions to be put to us by our online audit, I think, in fact, we've got one question which has already come up, and I think this question could be answered by either Ian or Stephen, actually, and it's from Prana. He's asking about the cost of the software for the PSM audit. Is that something that one of you'd like to answer?
I'll go on. Basically, you're looking at around £500 per license per year, Prana.
Right. Okay. Okay. So there's a thank you there. Fantastic. I guess I've got a question for both of you, different questions, and the question that I have for you, Ian, is about process safety auditing in general, and is it a mechanism for checking compliance, or is it a tool for seeking improvement in how you might go about managing your major hazards? Have you any thoughts on that?
Sure, thank you, Lee. Well, look, in my view, there are three sources of information that you can get from process safety performance. The first and the worst, in a way, is incident investigation, because it's too late. It's happened. But that has the strongest impact on the organization in terms of learning. It's a sad fact of human nature that we've got to burn our fingers before we take it seriously often. So if you want an impact from a measuring process, have an incident and people remember it. But across organization, learning, even from incidents, is not great. Then you've got the kind of day-to-day data you need. You need KPIs, such as the dashboard Stephen has showed. You need constantly to measure the performance using metrics of your safety management systems. And then you need structured auditing. And auditing is about answering a simple question. Is our management system, our PSM system, capable of delivering control of the risks that arise from the hazards we have in the business? And is it actually controlling them on a day-to-day basis? So first look is, have you got the structures, the procedures, the policies, the training, and everything else in place, the safe operating procedures, the good design basis of safety, et cetera, et cetera. Have you set your operating parameters, your level, temperature, pressure right? So that's the system base. And then you've got to go out and look to see it's being delivered. So the audit is about checking the structures in place capable of delivering control of risk, and then it's more importantly about, is the risk being managed on the ground? So it's never about compliance. Look, as a regulator, the law is set at a very basic level. You know, 99% of people should be able to comply with the law. We don't want to be locking people up. So if it's about compliance against the law, then that's not going to give you very high level of assurance. If it's a compliance against a standard, like one of the BS, that's fine, as long as that standard aligns with the PSM framework. You can't miss any of those 20 elements out. You can't have 16 and have a compliance audit that only looks at those 16. And the compliance audit has to go beyond whether the system exists in theory, it has to demonstrate with evidence it exists in practice. So it's a bit of a long answer to your question, Lee.
No, that's a very thorough answer. Thank you, Ian. We have another question from the audience. Is this tool primarily aimed at sites owning their own licenses and auditing themselves, or is it for consultants and support organizations to own the licenses and carry out third-party external audits of the company's PSM systems? Any thoughts?
Either or, Lee, to be honest with you. It can be used by an entity that can use it for their own team, and they can train their team up and use the tool and audit against the framework's elements and expectations. It can be used as a third-party audit tool for somebody to engage a third-party audit tool so they can use it. Follows a systematic approach for continuity against all of the assets. So it's whatever the client really needs, Lee. It's there as a tool to help organizations, as Ian and yourself presented, stopping these catastrophic incidents still happening today. So whether it be one license per company, they have an internal auditor, or they can have one for each site. It depends on the complexity of the operations and how they want to actually embed it in their audit processes. But it is flexible. It's online. It can be done on handheld devices. It can be done corporately or on a server. So it's basically whatever the organization seeks to use the tool for.
Very good. We've got another new message coming here, I think. Right. Okay. Okay, let me, in the absence of any new questions, I've got a, okay.
I was just going to say there's a couple of questions in the Q&A function, by the way.
Okay, right. Fair enough. I think I may have been looking at the chat, beg your pardon. Okay, we do have a couple of questions. What is your recommendation of the level of the auditors to carry out the audit in terms of competency and the authority? Ian, would you like to try and answer that?
Absolutely. So an auditor for process safety needs quite a set of skills, really. The first skill on a competency need is around process safety management, and what good risk management looks like. So they've got to be able to put into context the things they discover. So you need, technical knowledge of the industry that you're auditing generally. So it depends on the sector and the type of industry. If it's a refinery, if it's a fuel storage terminal, if it's a chlorine gas manufacturer, might be water industry, power industry, whatever. You need a kind of knowledge around what the processes is and the kind of major incident scenarios that could occur, and what are the common or normal expectations about control measures and standards of control. The second skill, which is often overlooked, is the interpersonal skills of an auditor. An auditor must be very open, must be very kind of level-headed, mustn't get too excited, must have a style that encourages people to share information rather than close up. So you've got to have a good interviewing style. You've got to have a very open approach and a very kind of empathetic approach to the people you're auditing, because they often find themselves in an unenviable position. They're managing risk, and they know their systems are not appropriate or not as good as they should be. So, and they may not want to kind of reveal that because it might make them feel guilty, even though it's the organization's responsibility to manage those risks. So you need a technical knowledge and you need an interpersonal knowledge. And then on top of that, the thing that I often see lacking is an inability of auditors to kind of prioritize and summarize. So they'll come up with 150 recommendations and then not be able to kind of sift through, well, the top 6 are these, and this is why they're important. And these people are often afraid to do that because they think, well, everything must be important, it's process safety. So that ability, that skill level to be able to summarize and present findings in a clear way is vital, Lee. Is there a qualification? I don't know. Certified, there are certified auditors, but
yes,
yeah.
I don't think they're that commonly known, but they do exist. Yeah, good. Another new question here in the Q&A box. Quite a good question. It's the relationship between internal audits and external audits. And do you regard internal audits as important as external audits, and how do you see the relationship between them? I guess that might, from your experience, that might lie with you, Ian. I don't know. Maybe
Yes,
Steve would like to contribute as well.
Yeah, I'll have a first stab. Look, internal audit should be the norm. It should be, you should do self-assessment. You should be able to kind of have an open approach within the organization to probe and understand how risk is being. So the default is internal audit. Occasionally, you might want a third-party view on the veracity of the audit, the structure, the quality of the evidence, the quality of the findings. So it's always good to kind of go external from time to time. But look, organizations own the hazard, they own the risk, and they should own the monitoring and the measuring of those risks, the safety systems to control those risks. That's my view, Lee.
I agree wholeheartedly with Ian there. I think internal audit is absolutely essential, but like Ian said, to verify it periodically by an external pair of eyes, doing a third-party audit, I think does add value. So internal first, but sort of supplemented by external third parties periodically.
Yeah, I think this is touched on by a question in the chat box that's asking, is it important to have fresh eyes conducting the audits? And sounds like we're all in agreement that it would benefit to have fresh eyes, and I think that can even happen in an internal audit as well. Ian, you can have others away from the operation under audit, from other parts of an organization that come into audits as part of the internal audit.
Look, the key thing for me here, Lee, is trust. So the organization shouldn't bring external auditors in if they don't trust their internal auditors. You really need to make sure that the two external internal approaches dovetail, that they're supporting each other. And it might be that internally they don't have the skill set. There might be some specialized areas where they may struggle to understand the hazard and risk and what good practice looks like. External auditors tend to get around so many more places, so get much more experience, but there shouldn't be a conflict. It should all line up together. That's the key thing. The external audit is never there to find problems with the internal auditor. It's to support the organization in managing risk. For me, that's the key issue there.
Again, if I could just jump in, Lee, around internal cross auditing of different sites is an excellent approach to share best practice and having a different pair of eyes, and it keeps the audit process fresh, if you like, and not just a tick box. So that's another good practice that people may want to consider.
Yeah. Okay, we've still got some time to the end of the webinar. Another question. What do you think of the importance of involving human factor subject matter experts in PSM audits?
It's essential, Lee. Absolutely essential. Yeah. You can't look at risk from just looking at hardware and control systems. You need to understand the interface between people, whether they're doing critical tasks monitoring the, control systems, responding to alarms. It's human factors every day for me. So it's hard to get, look, the 20 elements give you a kind of good cover, but they don't delve into an awful lot of detail. So if your auditing finds, look, there's a problem here with competence, there's a problem here with alarm management, there's a problem here with, the instructions that support people to do safety critical tasks, then outside from the audit, you go back and you do a bit more of a structured dive into, human factors and human reliability, but it should always be a central part of the audit. People do safety, not systems.
Yeah. Okay. Still got time. There's a good question here. If incidents continue to occur today in the chemical industry where PS elements are implemented, what are the root causes of these incidents? What are the experts' experience in this? Which of the 20 elements? I think
okay, I can answer it simply, Lee.
Yeah.
The cause, well, there's 2 or 3 key causes. The first is that there isn't a kind of top to bottom understanding of hazard and risk and control measures. As you work your way down into the operations side, they end up with just a set of instructions with no knowledge or understanding what they're about. So they can't put into context why this is important or that's important. So it's a lack of understanding at the interface between people and the hazards, what safety looks like and what the relative importance is. And with process safety, it kind of is mixed up with production. So you can often get production pressures keep the process running as per Bunsfield and many others, compared to, yes, I spoke with an organization in Poland, it was, and somebody asked the question, well, within your organization, is everyone authorized to press the big red button and shut down if it's not safe? And the answer came back quite remarkably, yes, but they can only do it once. So in other words, if you press that big red button, there's going to be some fallback on that. So it's that lack of connection between what a safety system should look like in day-to-day terms and what people know and understand and are supported to deliver day-to-day. So that's the first thing. The second thing is a lack of leadership and senior management understanding. So if we're under price pressures or costing pressures, we can cut back on maintenance or save costs on maintenance by getting third parties and maybe somebody in who is not necessarily got the expertise in that area. So and as I always say, Bunsfield, the tank didn't stick its hand up and say, you think I've got a high-level shut-off system, and I have, but actually it's disabled. So if you overfill this tank, I'm not going to work. These systems have no voice. So if you don't have regular intervention to maintain and calibrate your safety systems, most safety systems day-to-day do nothing. Pressure relief valve, its normal function is nothing. And then when it's needed, it's got to work 100%. So it's that kind of taking your eye off the maintenance of what's critical, proving constantly to yourself it's there and it's going to work, that causes a lot of incidents. It's the kind of belief of infallibility.
Yeah.
I'd like to jump in there as well, Lee. I believe if you follow a systematic approach like the EI's framework, if you have leadership visibility and clear leadership within the organization, then you support it by the elements, contents, and expectations. And you have that coupled with a sense of unease within the organization, with two-way dialogue, staff empowerment, a just culture. Holistically, we will eliminate these incidents. As Ian said when he started, there ain't no new incidents. They're the same thing, the same failure modes, the same lack of risk management, the same quick, let's cut budgets by 25%. All of these things are being exemplified by Texas City, Deepwater Horizon, Bunsfield. So a clear answer, I believe, Lee, is follow the EI's framework, all the expectations, implement the elements, train your staff, empower your staff, have leadership that understand the consequences, not just from people's health, safety and well-being, the environment, but also the assets. If they lose the asset, you lose your business. So it is as simple as that in my perspective, Lee.
Okay. Great. Okay, I think we'll take this as a final question, and I think each of you will have an opinion on this one, and this is, which one of the 20 elements do you believe most companies do not do very well? Ian, if I was to ask which particular element do you feel is most commonly patchily implemented?
Leadership.
Okay,
Leadership.
Yeah.
Every time.
Okay.
Leadership.
I've got 3, Lee. I'm going to be a bit greedy, mate. Leadership,
Yes.
leadership, management of change, and
Yep.
also a failure to fully understand emergency preparedness and response. Because in my experience, when they are all of them 3 are done well, people are so switched on to what can go wrong. They're very proactive in preventing it go wrong. As Ian said earlier on, prevention is far better than any kind of mitigation or cure. So that's the 3 that I would suggest, but leadership is number 1.
Great. Okay. Very good. I think we're coming up to a few minutes to the hour. So what I'd like to do is thank you both, Ian and Stephen, for a really insightful presentation and demonstration of process safety auditing and the tool that was shown. I'd like to thank the EI backroom staff for also the promotion and organisation of the webinar. So thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank all of those people who've taken out an hour of their schedule to join the webinar, and for everybody who's put forward questions. So thank you very much. There will be a recording of this this webinar being sent out to all the registered delegates. So again, you can look through there, and if there's any questions, then I would be very pleased to receive these and perhaps try and answer them or forward them to Ian and Stephen for their response. So everybody have a very good day wherever you are, and let's hope you have interest in future Energy Institute webinars. Thank you, and everybody have a very good day. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone. Stay safe and well. Bye-bye.
Thank you.